away from your front door, James.
The internet is filled with creepy content, but some videos go beyond disturbing. These are the recordings that leave you questioning what's real, what's staged, and what should have never been captured at all. Tonight we're diving into 6 of the most disturbing YouTube videos ever caught on camera. Let's dive straight into the first video. It was the night of December 4th, 2003.
I'm gonna go try to get them to stop doing that.
When a police officer patrolling a park in Arlington, Virginia, was approached by a concerned family. They reported hearing what sounded like a flare gun being fired from a nearby neighborhood. The officer listened carefully, and sure enough, the distinct popping sound echoed in the distance. Following the noise, he soon arrived at the residence of 56-year-old James Yu. James lived alone in a duplex and had built a reputation in the neighborhood as an eccentric loner. He was known for erratic behavior, and his social media was littered with bizarre claims. He insisted that he was a victim of fraud, targeted by various government agencies, and he harbored an intense distrust of both law enforcement and federal institutions. In his mind, he was constantly under threat. His enemies, he believed, included his ex-wife, the FBI, and even his own neighbors. Many of his statements made little sense, and neither did his actions in the months leading up to that night. He had covered every window in his home with garbage bags and aluminum foil, wrapped his trees in toilet paper. And now, his behavior had escalated into something much more alarming. When officers reached his home, they saw him at a window, repeatedly firing a flare gun into the night sky. Despite their attempts to get him to stop, James ignored every command. In just 25 minutes, he had fired 41 flares.
County Police! Stop shooting the flares! Mr. Yu!
Never offering a single word of explanation. At this point, authorities had no idea what his intentions were. Was he trying to send a signal? Was he armed with something more dangerous? They needed to get him out of the house to assess whether he posed a real threat. For hours, officers called out to him, at first calmly requesting, then forcefully ordering him to exit the house.
James, Arlington Police, come to the front door with your hands up. Do it now. We have your building surrounded.
But James never answered. With the situation at a standstill and growing concerns that he could be planning something more dangerous, police escalated their response. They brought in an armored vehicle, using it to break down the door and flood the inside of the home with gas, hoping to force James out.
James, stay away from your front door. Stay away from your front door, James.
Instead, he responded by opening fire again. But this time, he wasn't using a flare gun. Now, he was shooting with a real firearm. Luckily, none of his bullets hit the officers, but the encounter had taken a much darker turn. With the situation spiraling out of control, the police pulled back, carefully strategizing their next move. They needed a new approach to bring James into custody safely. But before they could act, everything changed.
Yeah.
Without warning, an enormous explosion tore through the house, obliterating it in an instant. The force of the blast reduced the entire structure to rubble. Investigators later uncovered that James had been stockpiling 55 gallons of gasoline in his basement, seemingly waiting for the right moment to ignite it. Speculation quickly followed. Some believed James had intended to lure law enforcement inside before setting off the explosion, aiming to take out the officers along with his neighbors, people he was convinced were plotting against him. Yet, miraculously, despite the scale of destruction, not a single police officer or civilian was harmed. The only body recovered from the wreckage belonged to just one person. And yet, for a short time, the story didn't end there. Before authorities could confirm the identity of the remains, rumors began spreading online that James Yu had somehow survived the blast. Posts appeared on what seemed to be his personal YouTube account, where someone claiming to be him insisted that the entire incident was a government cover-up. They stated that he had never been inside the house at all, and that the real story was being hidden from the public. And when looking back, there was something unsettling about the fact that, throughout the entire ordeal, there was no clear footage of him, nor had anyone ever actually heard his voice. The mystery only deepened as these claims went viral. But in the end, there was a simple explanation. The account posting these statements wasn't actually his. The username didn't match, and the comments were later determined to be nothing more than an elaborate hoax. Still, even today, some people believe there's more to the story than what was officially reported. Was James Yu the target of something bigger, or was he simply a man consumed by paranoia and isolation? His fears culminating in one final destructive act. Whatever the case, his story remains one of the most chilling and inexplicable events ever documented on YouTube. If you thought this was shocking, just wait till you see the next one. Quick interruption. If you're enjoying this video, why not hit that subscribe button? We're on a mission to hit 150,000 subscribers, and when we do, 3 lucky fans will win a free item of their choice from our merch store. Right now, 73.6% of you watching haven't subscribed yet. It's completely free, and your support helps us make even more awesome videos. So, don't miss out. Subscribe, and let's get back to the video. A lively crowd gathers in a busy bar in downtown LA for what promises to be another unpredictable open mic night. These kinds of events attract all sorts of performers, from seasoned comedians to complete amateurs stepping onto the stage for the first time. You never know what you're going to get, and on this particular evening, the audience would witness something so bizarre, so unsettling, that it would leave a lasting mark on everyone in attendance. The performer's name? Robert Kemu.
Where's your funny face? Make a funny face.
Interestingly, Robert wasn't some unknown face. He already had a long history on YouTube, appearing in countless videos performing skateboarding tricks alongside friends. But tonight wasn't about skateboarding. Tonight, he wanted to show off a different skill. Robert stepped onto the stage to perform a freestyle rap.
What is this? Like some rap right here. I'm gangster in this house. Fucking cut the EMP off my fucking leg and then I'm out.
Right from the start, it was rough. His words were slurred, his delivery offbeat, clearly the result of his intoxicated state. But at the end of the day, a bad open mic performance is nothing unusual. If anything, it's what makes these nights entertaining. A terrible freestyle? Embarrassing, maybe, but not exactly newsworthy. However, Robert's performance was far from over. After stumbling through the first part of his song, his lyrics suddenly took a disturbing turn.
My fucking leg and then I'm out. Motherfucker, you don't even know fucking news. I killed my fucking buried that in the fucking dirt. Give me that. And I'm out because the cops trying to look for me and I'm fucking trying to jump.
Through his slurred words, he rapped, "I killed my bitch and buried that bitch in the funning dirt." Then, almost as an afterthought, he muttered, "I gotta go. The cops are looking for me." For a few seconds, the room froze. Some in the audience laughed it off, assuming it was just part of the act. The MC on stage even tried to brush it aside, joking that it was an Eminem-inspired performance. But others in the crowd were visibly uneasy. Something about Robert's words felt off. And as it turns out, their instincts were absolutely right.
Well, we're inside this bar, the King Eddie bar, and this is where Camus was standing when he did this rap version. And I guess the big question is, was it a confession?
Sitting just outside the bar, parked in plain sight, was Robert's gray Prius. Inside the trunk, a shovel, fresh dirt, and, most disturbingly, fresh blood. Blood that belonged to his girlfriend, Amanda Custer. That very same day, Amanda had been reported missing. A concerned neighbor had witnessed Robert carrying her limp body, placing it into the trunk of his car before driving away. Hours later, he was here, alone, freestyling at an open mic night. At the time, it seemed like nothing more than a bizarre, drunken performance. Today, it is widely regarded as a confession. Ultimately, this footage was used in court, playing a crucial role in Robert's conviction for the murder of Amanda Custer. But despite his conviction, one tragic truth remains. Amanda's body has never been found. And if Robert's own words are to be believed, then the horrifying reality is that somewhere, buried deep in the dirt, her remains still lie undiscovered. Did you find this unsettling? Then brace yourself for what you're about to see next. Driving is one of the most routine activities in everyday life, but as our first clip shows, the most ordinary drive can turn into a nightmare in a split second. One moment, you're cruising down the highway, admiring the scenery. And next, you find yourself witnessing something horrifying, something you can't quite comprehend. It's no wonder dashcam footage has become so popular in the horror community, capturing everything from terrifying accidents and near misses to unsettling, unexplained events. But in 2019, a particular clip surfaced that didn't just shock the internet with its disturbing visuals. It left behind a mystery that no one could explain. On December 30th, 2019, a motorist was driving along Highway 1 in San Francisco, California. This iconic stretch of road runs high above the Pacific Ocean, offering stunning coastal views. On a clear day, it's considered one of the most beautiful routes in the United States. But on this particular afternoon, for this particular driver, the breathtaking scenery would be shattered by a glimpse of something horrifying.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
A car, moving at high speed, suddenly veered off the road and disappeared over the edge of the cliff. It happened so fast that the driver could barely process it. Had they really just seen a car plummet off the cliffside? Or had their mind played tricks on them? Not willing to take any chances, they immediately called 911, reporting what they had just witnessed. But the truth would only be revealed once they checked their dashcam. The footage was short, but it confirmed what they had feared. A green SUV could be seen in the distance, speeding toward the cliffside, its brakes seemingly never engaged. And then, just before the clip ends, the vehicle appears to go airborne, vanishing over the edge. By the time authorities arrived, they quickly found evidence that the car had indeed gone over. Tire tracks in the sandy dirt led straight to the cliff's edge, a clear sign that something had gone off the road. But then, they noticed something that defied all logic. There was no vehicle in the water below. Immediately, search teams were deployed. Rescue boats scoured the area, searching for any trace of a car or a driver. But no wreckage was found, no body, no debris. Despite days, and eventually weeks, of thorough searching, only a few car parts surfaced. Yet even those didn't match the exact make and model of the SUV seen in the footage. Even stranger, despite the car being identified as a 2009 green Lexus SUV, no one ever reported a missing person linked to that type of vehicle. It wasn't a common car. It stood out. Yet despite the footage being broadcasted on the news and shared widely online, no one recognized the vehicle. With no missing persons cases connected to the incident and no physical evidence proving a vehicle had crashed, the investigation stalled. It was as if the car had simply disappeared into thin air. The bizarre nature of the case led to a wave of speculation online. Some suggested something supernatural had happened. Others theorized that the vehicle had hit the ocean at such a perfect angle that it had been completely swallowed by the waves, leaving no trace behind. But perhaps the most controversial theory was that the video itself was fake. Some believed the dash cam footage was an elaborate hoax, possibly CGI. Even experts examined the clip, trying to detect signs of digital manipulation, but no evidence of fakery was ever found. The footage was real, and yet it made no sense. With no leads, no explanations, and no car, the mystery slowly faded from the headlines. That is, until 5 months later. On the morning of April 29, 2020, a group of swimmers at Montara State Beach spotted something floating in the distance. As they got closer, the horrifying realization set in. It was a body. The remains were soon identified as Tracy Sinclair, a local woman who had been missing since late December 2019. Around the same time, the mysterious dashcam clip was recorded. When police reviewed her records, they made another shocking discovery. Tracy Sinclair had owned a dark green 2009 Lexus SUV. At last, there was an answer to who was in the vehicle, and, more importantly, proof that a crash had actually occurred. But this revelation only raised more questions. If Tracy had been missing this whole time, why was she never connected to the case? And perhaps the biggest mystery of all, where was her car? Despite this breakthrough, her Lexus SUV has never been found. Not a single verified piece of debris, not even a sunken wreckage, has ever been recovered. Given the absence of brake lights in the footage, many have speculated that Tracy's crash was intentional. But why she drove off that cliff, and why it took so long to connect her to the case, remains unknown. For some, the lingering questions still fuel speculation online. But for Tracy's family, there is at least some measure of closure. They now know what happened to their loved one, even if one part of the mystery will likely never be solved. It's sad to think that their loved ones may never truly know what happened. But what if they do? Only it happened in the most unexpected way. In the summer of 2022, in Korea, an upscale corporate villa known as Joseph Israel was rented out for what was supposed to be a lively and enjoyable company event. The villa, known for its luxurious outdoor pool area, had been secured by a local marketing agency as the perfect setting for employees to relax and bond outside of the usual work environment. On July 21st, 50 employees gathered for the event, soaking in the summer heat and cooling off in the pristine blue waters of the pool. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, the perfect mix of socializing, drinks, and swimming. But then, something unusual started happening. Some partygoers began to notice the water level slowly receding. At first, it was subtle, hardly noticeable, but soon the drop became more apparent. One observant attendee, sensing that something wasn't right, pulled out their phone and began recording. And just as they hit record, chaos erupted.
וואו, יש בולען בבריכה, קררה. מישהו צילם את זה? הטיקטוק
Without warning, the ground beneath the pool gave way, collapsing into a massive sinkhole. The peaceful waters instantly transformed into a swirling vortex, dragging everything in its path down into the earth. The powerful suction created an overwhelming current, pulling pool floats, water, and even people into its depths. In mere seconds, the once-filled pool was completely drained, leaving nothing but a gaping chasm where the water used to be. Fortunately, only 6 people had been in the pool at the time. 3 of them managed to react quickly, scrambling out of the water before they could be caught in the sinkhole's pull. One man was nearly swallowed by the collapse, slipping and falling just inches from the crater's edge. But, miraculously, he too was able to escape. However, 2 others were not as lucky. Before the video even began, both men had already been sucked into the depths of the sinkhole. One of them managed to fight his way back to safety, but the other, 32-year-old Khalil Kim Hee, was nowhere to be found. When rescuers arrived on the scene, they attempted to enter the hole, expecting to find a shallow pit. Instead, they discovered that the sinkhole was far deeper than anyone had imagined, plummeting an astonishing 43 feet straight down. Worse still, the opening had rapidly filled with water, making any rescue attempt even more perilous. For 4 grueling hours, divers navigated the tight, claustrophobic void, desperately searching for Khalil. But by the time they reached him, it was already too late. Trapped at the very bottom of the sinkhole, he had drowned long before help could arrive. His final moments were likely some of the most terrifying imaginable. Suddenly being pulled underwater, dragged down into complete darkness, with no possible escape. When the dust settled, an investigation revealed the tragic truth behind the collapse. The villa's owner had constructed the pool without the proper permits, placing it in an area where the ground was structurally unsafe. As a result, he was charged with negligent manslaughter. While this disaster claimed only 1 life, it's chilling to consider how much worse it could have been. If more people had been in the pool at that moment, the death toll could have been catastrophic. But perhaps the most unsettling part of it all is just how sudden and unpredictable the event was. One moment, you're swimming in a luxury pool under the summer sun. The next, you're being dragged 40 feet underground, trapped in complete darkness, drowning with no chance of survival. All because of a freak phenomenon that no one saw coming. For now, let's dive straight into the next disturbing video. Our next case takes us to an environmental anomaly. Unlike any other tucked away on the outskirts of Mitsero, Cyprus, lies a striking body of water known as Red Lake. As its name suggests, the lake is an eerie shade of red, though its appearance shifts throughout the year. Sometimes, it gleams a bright crimson. At other times, it takes on a much darker, almost blood-like hue. This unusual coloration is the result of mineral deposits in the soil, combined with runoff from a long-abandoned mine nearby. Decades ago, the site was used for extracting iron ore and gold, but operations ceased in the 1950s, leaving behind a toxic legacy. The contaminants permanently altered the water's composition, making it so dangerous that swimming is strictly forbidden. Some have even referred to it as an acid lake, warning that prolonged exposure could have harmful effects. Yet, despite its dangers, Red Lake has become a magnet for extreme tourism. The unsettling beauty of the water continues to draw curious visitors, many of whom have captured breathtaking footage of the site. One such example is a video from the YouTuber 2 Wheels for Rotors. The video features a stunning aerial view of the lake, filmed by drone. The deep red water and the surrounding desolate landscape create an almost otherworldly image, unlike anything seen elsewhere. But while most choose to observe the lake from a safe distance, others have ventured dangerously close. Among them was YouTuber Sarah Funk.
I discovered that there is a red lake called Mitsero. It's about 20 kilometers from Nicosia. Most people don't even know it exists. We're gonna go check it out.
In 2017, she traveled to Cyprus with her boyfriend. Their mission? To reach the water's edge and document their experience. The video captures the difficulty of accessing the site, as well as the unsettling atmosphere of the remote location.
This is what like murder episodes are made out of, okay? Because it's always like a young American couple went on vacation to Cyprus. They went to see a red lake where nobody went, but they figured out why. And like it just never see us again.
It smells so bad here. It's like so gross. It just like feels like death. You know what I mean?
At one point, Sarah even stands just inches away from the toxic lake, snapping a photo near its ominous red waters. At the time, these videos were nothing more than travel vlogs. Interesting, sure, but not particularly eerie. That all changed in 2019. It was in April of that year when the dark truth about Red Lake was revealed. Heavy rainstorms had battered the region, causing widespread flooding, including in a nearby abandoned mine shaft. As the water levels rose, something unexpected surfaced: the decomposed remains of a woman. Her body had been dislodged from a shallow grave where it had been hidden for years, and she wasn't alone. As authorities searched the mine shaft, they discovered another body, this time belonging to a second woman. Both victims had been strangled to death, suggesting something far more sinister at play. Investigators quickly launched a full-scale search of the surrounding area, looking for any other possible victims. But it wasn't until they turned their attention to Red Lake that the true extent of the horror was uncovered.
Police in Cyprus investigating a suspected serial killer have uncovered another body close to an abandoned mine where the bodies of 2 other women have already been found. An officer in the Cypriot army has confessed to killing 5 women and the daughters of 2 of his victims.
5 more bodies were found beneath the water's surface. 3 of them were adult women, 2 of whom had also been strangled, just like the victims in the mine shaft. But the final 2 bodies were far more disturbing. They weren't women at all. They were children. As the case unfolded, it became clear that Cyprus had just uncovered the work of a serial killer. The nation was in shock, and it didn't take long before a suspect emerged. Nikos Metaxas, a military officer with a horrifying confession. Metaxas admitted to killing all 7 victims, each of whom he had met through a dating app. He targeted migrant women, women who had come to Cyprus looking for work, many of whom had few legal protections. He knew that if they disappeared, their cases wouldn't be taken seriously. And tragically, he was right. For years, law enforcement had failed to investigate the disappearances, allowing his crimes to go unnoticed. His most chilling claim? Metaxas stated that 2 of his victims had planned to pimp out their daughters. He claimed that he not only had to kill the mothers, but also the children themselves, as a twisted way of saving them. As horrifying as his crimes already were, there was one more disturbing detail: the way he disposed of his victims. Metaxas didn't just dump their bodies into the lake. Instead, for at least 4 of his victims, he bound them, stuffed them into suitcases, and threw them into the water, ensuring that they would sink. And this is where the travel videos take on a much darker meaning. Let's rewind to the beginning, to the footage from 2 Wheels for Rotors. The drone flies over the lake, capturing a strange object near the shoreline. It had gone unnoticed at the time, but in hindsight, it was something far more sinister than just debris. It was one of Metaxas's suitcases, one that had washed up years after being thrown into the water. But nothing compares to the chilling reality of Sarah Funk's video. As she crouched by the lake, just inches from the red-tinted water, she had no idea that she was standing right next to the trapped remains of a lost soul. She was unknowingly filming herself just feet away from one of Metaxas's victims, the lifeless body still sealed inside its suitcase beneath the surface. By the end of the investigation, all 7 victims had been identified and finally given a proper burial. Their names were Mary Rose Tiburcio, Ariane Palanas Lozano, Asmita Kadakabista, Elena Natalia Bunea, Maricar Valdez Arqueola, Livia Florentina Bunea, and Sierra Graze Sukaliuk. In June 2019, Nikos Metaxas was convicted and sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms. He will never walk free again. However, his crimes have left an eerie mark on YouTube forever. Unknowing creators had ventured deep into what they thought was a hidden gem of nature, only to later realize that they had been filming at a serial killer's dumping ground. Did you find these 5 YouTube videos disturbing? Then brace yourself for the last disturbing video. Our next story takes us to the Philippines, to a small community where an unthinkable event unfolded in mid-July 2014. What should have been a time of mourning for one family instead became a moment of sheer disbelief. It all started when a 3-year-old girl fell critically ill. She had developed a severe fever, and with no access to a modern medical facility, her condition quickly worsened. Tragically, on the morning of July 12th, doctors pronounced her dead. Her heartbeat had stopped, and she showed no signs of life. Her body was taken home, where the family prepared for the funeral to be held the following day. Loved ones gathered, grieving the loss of a child whose life had ended far too soon. The girl was gently placed in her casket, and the lid was shut. The funeral proceeded as expected, with family members and friends paying their last respects before she was to be lowered into the ground. But before the burial could take place, something unthinkable happened. A neighbor, who had been assisting with the funeral arrangements, stepped forward to reposition the girl's body inside the coffin. That's when he noticed something unusual. Her head moved. At first, it was barely perceptible, a small twitch, but panic set in as the neighbor checked for a pulse. That's when he made a shocking discovery. The child's heart was still beating. She was breathing. Realizing what was happening, a family member immediately grabbed their phone to record the unfolding chaos. The footage captures the moment when the family realizes the unthinkable truth. Their little girl was still alive. Had the neighbor not opened the casket at that exact moment, the child would have been buried alive. No one would have ever known. It's a terrifying thought, a situation that could have had a far more horrific outcome. The video quickly went viral, spreading like wildfire across YouTube and news outlets. The original clip alone garnered over 1 million views, while a news station's coverage of the incident skyrocketed to 25 million views. It became one of the most infamous miracle stories ever documented online. People everywhere marveled at what seemed to be a rare case of someone returning from the dead. But what the viral video failed to reveal was the tragic truth about what happened next. Because this wasn't a miracle at all. Although the child had a pulse and was still breathing, she never regained consciousness. She remained in a comatose state. And just 2 days later, on July 15th, she was pronounced dead once again. This time, for real. Yet despite this, the news report continued to tell a different story.
Happy tears, knowing that thankfully she's fine. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they opened that casket to check to move around.
In the widely circulated broadcast, the anchors confidently declared that the child had recovered, calling it a miracle. At first, it seemed possible that the reporters simply hadn't been aware of the tragic turn of events. Maybe the video had been recorded right after she was found alive, before the final outcome was known. But this wasn't the case. The child was mistakenly pronounced dead on July 12th, found alive on July 13th, and officially passed away on July 15th. Yet, despite this timeline, the viral news report was uploaded on August 13th, an entire month later. By the time the video went live, the little girl was already gone. This wasn't an issue of outdated reporting. It was a deliberate omission of the truth. Even now, a simple Google search about the incident clearly states that the child passed away on July 15th. It was widely reported in major news outlets at the time. So how could the station have missed this crucial detail? They probably didn't. They chose to tell the story differently. A heartwarming miracle tale was easier to sell than the devastating reality. And so, what started as one of the darkest videos on the internet took on a twisted new meaning. The miracle turned out to be a mirage, forcing the family to endure the unimaginable pain of grieving their daughter's death. Twice. But beyond the false reporting, one terrifying truth remains. This little girl was moments away from being buried alive. It's a chilling thought. If this could happen once, how many others have met the same fate? How many people have been sealed inside their coffins too soon, their final cries unheard, their last moments spent in complete darkness, with no chance of escape? The answer to that question is one we will never know, because those who have suffered that fate never lived to tell their story. That's all for today, folks. If you want to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.